As ever, if you really want to get to the heart of something, always a good article in the Financial Times, and there's quite a lot today. And I've only just got round to looking at the FT, partly because I'm still a little ill, and it's sort of a struggle. But they've got an article there today on the funding crisis for SEND students, that's special educational needs and disabilities. The funding crisis for SEND students in state education, which has become an issue of national concern, particularly as a rising demand for specialist care outpaces the financial resources available to support these children. And the article in the FT presents a stark example of how this crisis is manifesting, particularly in Kent, where Laleham Gap School, designed for 168 students with autism and communication difficulties, now educates 237 pupils, far exceeding its intended capacity. The case illustrates, or is illustrative of a broader national issue, where the number of educational, health and care plans has skyrocketed by 83% since 2015, yet funding has not kept pace, even with an increase in the high needs budget. And what results is a deeply compromised system where parents increasingly turn to expensive private alternatives in the absence of adequate state provision, particularly as it can take up to 2 years to diagnose and to provide the paperwork to certify that a student requires SEND support. In Kent, for instance, the average cost of placing a child in a private special school is more than double the cost of state-funded alternatives, a situation that Sam Friedman, a former government advisor, attributes to systemic underfunding and the gutting of early years intervention services in mainstream schools. Friedman's analysis highlights a vicious circle where parents are forced to pursue formal EHC plans to access necessary support, further straining the resources of local authorities. Councils, many of which are projected to face financial collapse by 2027 unless SEND deficits are addressed, are left with few viable options. The reliance on private placements, with costs escalating as much as threefold since 2015, reflects both the shortfall in state capacity and the significant financial burden now borne by councils. As the article underscores, 26 of England's 38 county and rural councils could face bankruptcy if central government doesn't intervene. The value of private school placements, particularly for children who have not yet been fully diagnosed or whose needs are evolving, lies in their ability to provide an environment tailored to complex individualized needs. And private schools, while costly, often have the flexibility and the resources to accommodate students with sensory sensitivities or developmental delays in ways that mainstream state schools cannot. This is particularly true given the chronic underinvestment in mainstream schools, where staff are not equipped with the necessary training or facilities to manage the growing complexity of SEND's pupils. I think we need to seriously rethink the way we do education in this country. I think we need to rethink the way we do education globally. We are more concerned about the content of what we offer in classrooms rather than the methodology. The methodology should be the same whether we are teaching the history of Hollywood or the history of the Third Reich. The methodology should be the same whether we are teaching Latin or Japanese. The methodology should be the same whether we are teaching art or whether we are teaching pottery, ceramics, whether we are teaching design and technology. It should be the same. And I think with proper AI support and with proper online support, a class teacher should be able to manage a class where the students are pursuing a range of different subjects within an overall context. and that teachers should be in a position to be able to mark and monitor what they are learning through online resources. It's a matter of setting those online resources up, and it's a matter of ensuring that they are properly tailored and properly serviced. It's not a matter of simply putting a camera in a classroom. We learnt a lot through COVID. Now, I was already looking at this long before, and I was hoping to wheel out a program where we could seriously challenge the way schools and universities manage their teaching, their curricula, and so on. And to change it round so we move away from this factory process where we're all churned through the same factory and where the end result is a university, to something which is about achieving the skills we need to adapt to an ever-changing world, and to learn those skills, and also to recognize that students have a voice. I would love to see a situation where students guide the school in the subjects that they study, because the subjects, in a way, are simply the doorway to the methodology, which is the same. The article also signals the risk of reform efforts that aim to push more SEND students into mainstream education without addressing the core issues of funding, support, and inclusivity. While the safety valve of programme in Kent seeks to reintegrate more SEND pupils into mainstream schools, the lack of adequate resources in these environments risks further disadvantaging the very students these reforms aim to support. As Jane Hatwell, head teacher of Stone Bay School, points out, changes in admission criteria to mix students with varying degrees of need without appropriate investment in facilities or staff training will lead parents back to tribunals to fight once again for their children's right to proper provision. And by the time they get that right, the child will already be beyond that educational intervention age. This funding failure is not just an issue of financial mismanagement, but a deeper systemic challenge where the lack of comprehensive and well-supported solutions leaves parents and children caught between a rock and a hard place. As the FT article concludes, fixing this crisis will require not just piecemeal reforms, but a root and branch overhaul that addresses both the growing demand for specialist support and the critical underfunding of the very schools meant to provide it. And the irony of all this is that the VAT hit on private education will particularly hit those parents who have chosen to send their children who may or may not be fully diagnosed as SEND pupils to receive the education that they simply cannot access in the state system. It's such a sorry story, and the FT does great justice to the issues. It was a very good read. I recommend it.